So there's a question in the chat. Question on pre-assessment. Should participants be paid a stipend for their time to take the TABE pre-assessment? Also, how do we enter results from the pre-assessment? So the stipends are for instructional hours. So they would not be paid stipends to take the assessment. And to enter the results in the CEJA reporting system. I don't know if there's a video on that, David, or you're also welcome to hop on the CEJA reporting office hours on Wednesdays, and David can walk you through that. Or David, is there a quick way to walk them through right now?
Sorry, was this completing the service needs assessment or like adding a cost?
Adding the results of the TABE, the pre-assessment, the TABE test
Oh,
results.
okay. Yeah, I can. Let me log in here and kind of walk through how to add that. Find a good customer and test here. Go to, all right, so let me share my screen again. Two. Okay, so when we're in a customer's profile, so we've selected them from the customer list here. To enter the results of the TABE test, what we'll do is we'll go to, there's a couple different ways we can get there. We can get to it through the career plan, so we can click the career plan tab at the top here. Okay, so this will actually maybe be the faster way, but I can show both ways to get there. But under participant summary tools, we can click assessments, and that's what this tab is over here. And so we have our list of assessments. A lot of these, actually, I think all these right here are within WorkNet, but so assessments not within WorkNet are tied to the account. What we'll do is under enter more assessments, we'll click add assessment results. And then we can do a keyword search here to search for different tests. So in this case, we're looking for TABE. So we'll enter in that text, click search, and then there's a few different TABE tests here. And so, depending on which one, we'll select, the right one. So in this case, I don't know, let's say reading. And we'll have a lot of this information pre-populated, such as the assessment name, the description, the assessment type, the category it falls under, functional area was it reading, English, and math there. So then we just have to fill in a few fields here. So we have the date the assessment was completed. So let's say it was yesterday. And then we have the test level. We got a few options here. And then the grade level equivalent. And if you're not familiar with that, we do have this document here. Let me open this up. It's a download that kind of just provides a breakdown of the scale and what these numbers are tied to for this drop down for grade level equivalent. So we're on reading. So let's say we're looking at this last one here. So grade level 12, grade level for 12. So the scale score range is between 710 and 800. So you just enter some 15 and then grade level equivalent. We'd scroll down to 12 right here. And then we can enter the results. You can, oops, you got a text box right there. And then you can check the boxes for how the assessment was delivered. Um, and so then once we check that box, we can click save. And then we'll see that has been entered right here. And if we need to go back and take a look at, or maybe we need to make an update to one of the items we filled in here, we can certainly do that. Yeah, no problem. Now, it looks like we had another question. Can the navigator get access to Hub client case notes for retention purposes? Right now, we can only put put clients in. Um,
So, hi Nate. So yeah, so right now, we when we refer clients to to the hub, we only can see the clients we put in the system. We're not able to see the case notes of what the hub is putting in, and we're supposed to be following up with them for retention purposes. So, is there a way that we could have access to see the other clients in the hub?
let's see. So are we wanting to look at like the
Seems like
case
there's two
notes?
questions there.
Well, at least as
So,
far as viewing case notes. So I logged in as a navigator here. So if prior to, or if, well, let me take a look here. So we have under, so logged in as a navigator. This customer is with, okay, community partnership and climate works. And we have our case notes summary tool here, which provides kind of the summary of all the case notes for that have been entered for that customer in the system. And it's actually a really good question. I want to see. Okay, scenario tester one. Let me just make sure of something here. Because I believe scenario tester one is the account we have for community partnership climate works. Okay, so yeah, at least as if the provider that the customer is tied to, you can view the case notes under participant summary tools, the case notes here, and you will be able to see case notes that have been entered by that provider. So, whoever has access to the case notes, you'll be able to see whether the navigator's adding them or the workforce hubs or climate works grantees.
Thank you. I mean, we tried it yesterday, and we weren't able to, but I will log in again and see if we can access because we were only able to see the ones we put in. It didn't give us access. Like, so for instance, if they're putting in their resumes through the hub, we were trying to make sure so we can follow up with them for job placement. So, but yeah, so we'll try again and see if we're missing something, but as of yesterday, we could not.
Okay, and I think I kind of see what you're saying too, because yeah, it looks like for now under participant summary tools, we just have case notes, but there's also log in to another window here real quick. We also have like a field for, or a link to um, like file uploads for that customer. Let me just quickly copy this. here. And so maybe that's, kind of a question for the RAs as well. Um,
One thing, this is Larry, that I'll add just as a bit of clarification, and that the responsibility of the job placement is on either the Climate Works or the hub grantee. As a navigator, you can certainly, and we encourage you to stay in contact with the participants and provide any additional uh, navigator support, but it wouldn't be a responsibility of the navigator to take on that, I guess what we're calling the transition of that person after the completion of training to employment. Was that the question?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Mhm. Go ahead.
So this is Pete. I'm over here at Central States Air. I am the
Okay.
navigator over here. My question is in regard to during the participant pre-screening. So while we venture through the questionnaire and we, ask a series of different questions just to see, what the interests are, when you scroll down to the bottom portion, and under provider, I noticed in conversation that we just have the provider and the address of the provider. So when I'm giving the option to the individual, is there a way for us to receive next cohort information and contact information? So I'll give you an example. I was having a conversation with someone that chose two of the options, and they were like, well, when does this one start versus when does that one start? And I was kind of at a pause and I had to do some light research. Of course, I got them the information, but it was a little, lengthy to get them that info. But is there a way for us to view when these vendors have their next cohort?
That's a great question, Pete. We're currently working on a solution for that problem right now. As we've been collecting information from the training grantees on the scheduling of their training courses, and we're trying to compile that, as we speak, so that hopefully that will be a kind of a desk aid for folks to be able to use when you've got those questions. But it's in process. It's in
Thank
progress
you.
as we speak. Mhm.
And then I think it just in the meantime, and I think also, will still be important even once we do have that tool uh, available. It's it just make sure the communication with the navigator and the hub is frequent enough that the navigator is kind of familiar with that schedule and is kind of aware of, oh, well, we've got a cohort coming up, but it's full. You know what I mean? And so like filling in some of the context for that data is always going to be important too. So I think even once we get that tool up, it'll be important to just kind of keep in contact with them as far as is that cohort full? Like, is that date still correct and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Mhm.
I have a question. My name is the operating procedure and of putting some Like,
Alicia, your audio is kind of going in and out. You can't really hear your question very well.
Yeah.
can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Perfectly.
that seems a lot better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm pretty new to the CEJA reporting system. I mean, like a week new. So I was putting inputting the applications, like the intake applications. And what I was finding when I submit, add customer or whatever, that some of the information down at the bottom, like the where it asks about like, have you, the legal stuff stays in there. So it doesn't clear itself completely out. So I don't know if that's happened to anybody else or is it something I'm doing wrong that's causing that. I'm not sure. But I found that those questions right there that you just pulled up are staying in for the next customer or the next student. I'm not
Yeah.
sure why it's doing that.
I think
I'll have to take a look at that. Because what it should be doing is, whenever, the pre-screening is completed for one customer and submitted, those answers should be, automatically be pulling over here, for this customer. But if it's happening for, like you say, like the next customer, then that is something that we'll want to, take a look at and clear out. So I'll take a look at that and, do some troubleshooting.
And could it be her settings on her
Yeah.
computer,
Yeah. So
like
I don't know if it's user
autofill?
error or the computer. So yeah.
Me, I'm really not sure if it, gets down to a settings
Oh,
thing.
someone else though said they've noticed the same as Alicia
Okay.
recently. The form seems to default to the last person's answers.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
it does say Alicia on my screen, but I'm Yolanda. Alicia's like my boss. I'm not sure. That's not even changed. I probably need to fix that too. I'm in a different computer than her.
I just changed it for you, Yolanda.
Oh, thank you. User error, I just have to say. Thanks.
And then I guess
Hello,
we also just
everyone.
want to make sure that the data on that first person stays correct on that form, even once it's after it's submitted. So,
Right.
and sorry to interrupt whoever was trying to jump in there. My bad.
Anybody else have any questions? Not seeing anything in the chat.
A question here is attending the Illinois Clean Energy Equity Summit an allowable travel expense for CEJA hubs? Um, I don't think that is should be a problem. I think as long as the your budget includes some travel, I'm guessing that that could be considered to be um, uh, staff development as training and development. So I wouldn't see an issue with it. I don't know if anybody else, my colleagues, have a different
No,
thought.
I think it'd be good to attend and
Yeah.
maybe even present and
Yeah.
If you got some best practices to share, um, and even if not, maybe you'll learn some best practices there. So
Yeah, I
encourage folks to
agree.
attend.
I had two questions really quickly, Callie Matheny again. Will there be another summit in 2025 or is this it for the year?
If you're
I'm
referring, are
sorry.
you referring to the work? Oh, go ahead, Nate.
I'm sorry. I think we were probably thinking about the workforce summit, the WIOA workforce summit, but I'm realizing now that the question was about the Illinois Clean Energy Equity Summit. I think the answer to both of those is yes. We can. Those are both great to attend. The Illinois Clean Energy Equity Summit is the one here in Springfield later this month with area contractors. Definitely a good thing to attend if you can. Then there will be the WIOA Summit. And I'm sorry, I think they recently changed the name of that, didn't they? I forget what the name of
Yeah,
that is, but
I
in
think it's
in
just
East Peoria,
workforce. I think
Workforce
it's
Summit.
workforce.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that'll be that's in April, I believe. Is that right?
It's in May.
May? Okay.
We can send out a link, and that is only annually, that workforce summit,
Looks like May
if
8th
that
and
was your
9th.
question.
Yeah, it looks like May 8th and 9th for that one.
Thank you so much. And my last question, because I'm getting some questions internally, have any decisions been made about extending the award, the funding? Or is that still a conversation?
It's still a conversation, I'd say.
Got
Yeah.
it. Thank
Mhm.
you.
Hi, everyone. This is I apologize. I was having
Having some audio
to
troubles.
ask. I'm sorry. Can you guys hear me?
No, I think we can.
Okay, thank you. I had an eligibility question. As we are deemed the Southside Workforce Hub, we have received some candidates who are interested in services, but they have North Side addresses. However, when we put them in the CEJA map, they are showing up in R3 zone. Are they still eligible to enroll and participate with our Workforce Hub?
I'm sorry, you said you put you put the address in and it did show that they were inside of an R3.
Yes, it showed that they were inside of the R3 zone, but it's not a south side address. It's a north side address.
Oh, okay. Um, the the general idea is that if an individual is in an R3, it's I don't know. It's a little the naming convention for the Chicago hubs I think is a little bit misleading. But the answer to your question is if they are in an R3 and they're looking for services that you can provide and travel, transportation is not a problem for the individual, then you can serve them.
Okay, perfect. And I did have one more question. So if we do have a candidate, because I know that with our agency, we're doing, they would have to fall in one of the R3 or EJC communities. In addition, they would have to fall in one of those other buckets, which is like justice involved, displaced energy worker. If we have somebody that only falls in a R3 zone or EJC community with no other buckets, are they eligible? Just the extra question to make sure that we're not turning anyone away that is eligible.
Just to make sure I understand what you're saying. The person is in an EJ and R3, but they're not justice involved, they're not foster, and you're wondering whether they have to have one or more of those in order to be eligible. Is that the question?
Correct.
No. All they have to do is be EJ or R3.
Perfect. Thank you so
And
much. That's all the questions I had.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. Um, if a person does not meet the eligibility requirements and they challenge us, do we still send them the letter that was previously discussed, or are we to continue the process somehow anyway? And there is a reason why I'm asking this. I was contacted by I don't know if it was a solar panel organization or something, and they asked um, questions about eligibility of people that they were considering to hire being sent to our program. And I just said I didn't know about it and what happened if they did not meet the requirements. So before I knew what it was, but now that the climate has changed, like, can we, you know, turn away people because of these requirements?
I'm not totally sure I understand the question.
Yeah.
So the question is basically like when we do the assessments, if they're in R3 or environmental justice or a displaced energy worker, they are easily eligible. But what if a person applies and they don't meet any of the eligibility requirements? Can we still just tell them that um, they can't be a part of the program?
So, one of the weird quirks of the Workforce Hub eligibility is that everyone in Illinois over the age of 18 with a barrier to employment is eligible. And so everything else is prioritization, right? And so if the person who has no none of the eligibility requirements, including they don't have a barrier, then no, they would not be eligible for the program. Um, the R3, EJ, justice involvement, foster care involvement, those things are priority markers, I guess, right? So they kind of determine whether that participant is let in first or if they're lower on the priority scale. But if someone has absolutely no eligibility criteria, like they don't have a barrier to employment, then I guess, I think our question would be like, why are we training that person then? Or like, why wouldn't they just go you know, to a non-CEJA program? I think I don't know if the other RAs have any other thoughts on that. That was kind of my thought.
I agree with that. I agree with that. One of the key things that we also want to emphasize too is that you all know that Siege is not the only game in town, and that for some folks who may not be eligible, or in some cases, I mean, I guess there are a number of different scenarios where a person can't be served by CEJA right now. But it's important to know that all the other training opportunities through, WIOA, the DCL JTED grants, you can refer people out to those too if uh, there isn't capability of serving a person, or if the person is ineligible. We don't want to say there's absolutely nothing I can do for you. But so if there's some other referral that you can do to try to help the person to further their career aspiration, we encourage you to do that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
This is Alicia Beck from Parkland. You may have spoken about this before, or somebody may have asked this question before I got on today. I was in a meeting with my adult ed director right before this, so I apologize for being late. I have we spoken at all today about the Dear Colleague letter that came from the Department of Education on Friday?
No.
Yeah. So, so I guess one of the things that we're looking for at Parkland is some guidance from um, DCEO about how to navigate the new requirements that are set forward by that Dear Colleague letter. And if you're not familiar with it, it's easily found, but I can post it in the chat. And it's something that all institutions of higher education are going to have to contend with and determine how they're going to address the concerns that are outlined in that letter. So that would be something that we would be needing guidance on sooner rather than later, because it does sort of outline in the letter that there will be additional measures, additional things, actions taken within about 14 days of the letter. So it will be important for us to know what guidance you can provide for us. So I'll go ahead and post it in the chat, and then hopefully that will be something that you can help us, take a look at.
Yeah, we'll for sure check that out. I know that something we've seen and we'll be discussing. I don't know that our programs necessarily come under the microscope for that, but certainly something we're gonna check out.
Certainly, I think it does for institutions like ours, where we will be, anything that we engage in will be examined and will potentially impact our federal funding that we receive. And that includes our student financial aid, any grants that we receive from any entity with the federal government, could come into jeopardy potentially with programs that do not align with the goals of that letter. So it will be important for organizations of our type to have guidance, and how things may be adjusted or presented so that we are in alignment. So I'm happy to have further conversation about this offline, but I just wanted to kind of put that out there.
Yeah, I think one of the cool things about CEJA is that it was crafted, I think, with these attacks on DEI in mind. And so I think hopefully that is going to help protect us in this new climate. But certainly we're going to look at that and provide some guidance too.
So there's a lot of potential that things. Perhaps you're also familiar with the guidance that's recently come out from the Department of Labor for apprenticeships, where we no longer track race and gender when it comes to information put into Rapids. So I foresee something similar in these cases where we will in fact be told not to track that information. And so there's the potential for ramifications there when it comes to reporting and requirements of reporting and all of those things. It's not quite as clear cut. So I think that there's going to be a lot of questions going forward.
Thanks for flagging that.
Totally. Yep. Understood. Thanks.
I saw a question I think we missed about that workforce summit, attending the workforce summit or other or the Illinois Clean Energy Summit. The question is, let's see, we have this question also, but it was not on the calendar prior to our grant application, so it is not in our budget. How do we work through that? So, I mean, I know Karen, our grant manager's on the call. I don't know if she has some insight to that, but I do know you would have to have had room in your budget for this type of travel. But if Karen, if you're available and you want to add anything, please do.
No, I think that pretty well covers it. It is an allowable expense. It would fall under your any allotment you have for travel. And I know most of the grantees did have at least something budgeted in travel. Otherwise, you would need to move funds from something else for your travel cost.
And they could work with you on that, right?
Yeah, if it's necessary to, as always, you've got the 10% movement. I hate to use that 10% up for something that's relatively small. I don't recall on here like what the hours were for this one or the days off the top of my head, but yeah, I would say if you can use what's already allotted in your travel allowance, that would be obviously my first recommendation.
And Val just pointed out that it's a free training, but there would be travel to get there. Anyone else? Not seeing any other questions in the chat. If we missed it, please let us know. And I don't see any hands raised. Okay. Well, if there are no other questions today, we could give you back about 10 more minutes to your day.